Hi, I'm Lisa Christensen. Welcome, watercolor card artists. I'm so happy to be here. I believe that everyone can watercolor, and not only that, but everyone can show kindness through their paintings. And so that's why I created this wonderful channel, and this video is going to share another aspect on how I like to share kindness to those around me when I start my watercolor card process. Alright, I have a whole bunch of stamps ready to be stamped on watercolor paper and mixed media paper, but before I start with all of that, I'm going to re-ink my ink pads, because sometimes, most of the time, when I'm stamping on watercolor paper, I like to have a very juicy ink pad, and so you can tell if it's needing re-inked because the ink will just go straight into the pad, and that's when you know you need it to be re-inked. So I take my time, I'll have my music playing, I'll be in my little creative zone, and I'm just going to re-ink. There's lots of different ways to re-ink. This is my way. Some people use a credit card and will like put a whole bunch on one end and then swipe it across. I don't necessarily think that's a bad choice. I just would rather ink this way. Once I have a bunch of ink left on my ink pad, I will just wait for it to soak in. If it doesn't soak in, you'll see me in a little bit just grab a like a pink like spatula, and I just kind of move the ink over where it needs to go to get inked in. But this ink pad in particular was very, very dry, and so now I'm going to go in and use the chocolate truffle ink from Tailored Expressions. It's also a watercolor like ink pad. It's waterproof, and so this time, instead of like letting it sit in, I'm actually going to bring in the spatula and just kind of move it around that way. That one is not as dried as the Oreo one was. And so you'll just see me kind of move that ink around. This is really kind of an important process that I don't want you guys to take for granted. If it's a brand new ink pad, you won't need to use it, but if you've used it at all, you kind of want to re-ink it often. I say re-ink early and often for the best that you can get. I'm pretty sure I'm going to call this lesson creative stamping on watercolor, because it's not just like a anyways. Okay, ready to start. So I got two sizes of Misties. I got a small size. This one goes up to like, this is like an A2 card, so you could put just an A2 card panel and call it good. It looks like it goes up to 4.5 by 6. And then this one is a bit bigger. This one goes up to 6, and then by 8.5. So you can get like a 5 by 7 on here, which I like. I use this about most of the time, but I have them both just so you guys can kind of see how this works. But let's move on. This one is called a Doxy Apology from Unity Stamp, and I'm doing a couple. I have a dachshund at home, and she is like my baby. I just love her. I have 3 adult babies, but she like keeps me company when my kids are at school, so I had to get this dachshund. And my dachshund, it's a dachshund lab mix, is black, but you could totally do a brown and be perfect. But that looks like a good impression, so I'm going to go ahead and stamp it. I am going to let it kind of soak into the watercolor paper just for a little bit. I take my time, and it didn't get completely inked. Now, when I don't mind that it's not completely inked, that's not the stamp's fault, and it's not the Misty's fault, and it's not the ink's fault. It's just the stamp is not seasoned, and the watercolor paper has a lot of tooth, so we just have to be patient. I think that's why stamping is considered an art form. There we go. Perfect impression. Just an insider note, so I tried to stamp this on the 140-pound watercolor paper, and I didn't get a great impression the second time, so I realized that, oh no, I forgot to tape my paper, and then when I went back to stamp it, it was moved. So I'm not going to do anything more with that, but I will show you a trick. So I take my tape runner, my glue, And I'm gonna put a little bit of glue right there. You can kind of see it. See, there's the glue, there's that spot of glue that I just put. And then I'll just put my finger on it just to get it less tacky. And then I'll put my paper right on here. And now I already inked it, so I don't need to re-ink it again. And I'm gonna press there. Oh, and it's perfect. You're a craft show person, but they're just cute little winter birds. And I don't know about you, sometimes winter is not my favorite. So I'm going to ink that. That's probably really inky. Sometimes you need a paper towel when you're inking. I'm okay with that. And there's a little bit of extra ink that I don't want. I'm just going to be a little more gentle this time around. I could tell that there was some gloopy ink down here and over here, so that's where I took the paper towel and just cleaned it up. But this is mixed media watercolor paper that I just cut to A2 size, so like 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And together we stand united in our mutual disdain. And they're like little, like not very happy birds. And I feel like, well, you know, birds of a feather flock together. Anyways, it's just so cute. Okay, I have some dog ones, some really cute doggy ones. And it comes in I really like this set. It comes with 8 dogs, and it just says like, I ref you, I can't wait to see your face. It's so fun. So anyways, they're fairly little. They're like, I don't know, 2 inches by 1 inch. So I thought a fun way to make a card would be to have just all of them like peeking up on a full line. And these stamps are very detailed, so it's hard to stamp on watercolor paper sometimes. But if you use that glue and you have a magnet, it's almost foolproof. Like I can move my Misti like I did and it won't go anywhere. And that's super cute. It's rough without you. And then I'll just add some color to it. That's the German Shepherd. Didn't quite do. I'm gonna have to remember that for next imprint. So let's do that again. So I'm gonna stick it on my paper, on my glue that I glued on. And I could probably use brown. Brown would have looked nice too. And sometimes I find that even stamps, like now that's perfect, almost perfect. That little nose that he has is making it a little tricky. And this is a new stamp, so I don't know if the nose is supposed to be like that or if that's just like the way. There we go. And I think that's a great impression. There we go. Perfect. That'll be way fun to send to somebody. Okay, this is still mixed media paper, and I'm using Wild Surprise and from Unity Stamp with a big cute moose. And I do like, I think I might actually use this on some brown cardstock paper and just use some white pastel. But for the first time, I'll just do black ink. And I'm making sure that my the text is really small, and so I don't know if it's actually going to. Usually when the text is really small, you have to be really more precise. Alright. And I might decide I don't like it, but we're gonna hope. And this is a brand new stamp, so I gotta make sure that it's really inked up. Okay. Oh yeah. Hope your day is amazing. Wishing you a day full of wild surprises. So stinking cute. All right, so a pro tip that I have is the first time I used this stamp, I didn't really love how the type came out with the mousse. So I took out the type, and now I'm just going to stamp the mousse in first, and that will give me a good impression. And then I'm going to stamp a couple more because I always stamp like 3 or 4 cardstocks at a time, panels at a time. And then I will go in and stamp the sentiments because I want an impression of the mousse to be really nice and well done. And then I'll go back in with my with the sentiments, and then get that going so that sentiments look perfect just the way I want them to be. I do this often. I know it adds a little bit more work, but in the long run it's really worth it. And of course I'm making sure that the type is perfect right on the stamp, and sometimes that is all I need, and then I'll stamp, and then I get a great impression for both the sentiment and the mousse. Use the Steamboat Willie stamp from Unity Stamp. I love Mickey Mouse, and this is just a simple, like, there was not much technique to it at all, but I always like to stamp these on mixed media paper because I can do a lot of things with them, and I just had a lot of fun. You'll see that I wanted to use a different sentiment with the same thing, and so I'm just placing my sentiment where I think it needs to be. I do take my time with sentiments because I don't want them to be, you know, I want them to be about perfect. And so I stamped it to see if it was perfect. It wasn't, so I had to fiddle faddle with the stamps just a bit, and then I realized, okay, we're in good shape. We can start inking up the stamp and getting it started. And so that is another pro tip, is be very, very detail oriented with your stamping. And you saw that for the third time's a charm, then I got it right. You won't probably notice a whole lot, but better than it was. And last but not least, I thought I would show you again how I use my clear stamps. I often use clear stamps in my card making. I think they work wonderful for watercolor cards. They do take a little bit of extra planning. I have to put in a foam sheet underneath my protective paper because the acrylic clear stamps do not have foam with it, and foam is how you get a good impression. So I want a good impression. I'm also seasoning my clear acrylic stamp with the oil on my skin, and that helps kind of give a nice little like it just seasons it, you know, like a pan, how you would season a pan, and then that way I get a good impression the first time I can. So that's perfect. I use mixed media paper, and I'm ready to go for the next couple ones. I am in total I stamped 6, and I had a couple of different sentiments that I wanted to use, and so that's what you'll see me do. But this stamp is by far one of my favorites. Alright, I just wanted to kind of do a recap of the things that I have stamped. So I stamped about 6 graduation watercolor panels with Pooh Bear. So cute. I think I'm going to just do a simple like yellow ochre wash with maybe the color of whatever the college or high school is, and call that done. With the background of blue and maybe some green right here just to add some interest. It's going to be pretty simple, but it's going to be really, I think, cute. And then I have my Dachshund apology, or Dachshund something. I don't know what I'm going to do with these, but they were super cute to do, and I know that dog cards always go well, so you can always use a dog card. Together we stand united in our mutual disdain. Perfect, like I got you, love you friend card. And then another one that I chose was through thick and thin our feathers stay ruffled together, birds of a feather sulk together. Meaning like if it's your bad day, it's my bad day. I love it. And then, of course, I'm on this chicken thing, so I have Feeling Clucky to Have You in My Life. You're the best chick in town. I just love it. It's so fun. There's so many chickens in Iowa, and it just keeps growing. Anyways, keep moving forward. I love that. I love the story behind Disney and Mickey Mouse, and I just couldn't help, like, this is perfect for Disney fans. And then I have Can't Stop You Now. I think that's perfect for graduation. I did 3 of those. We'll see. I think they'll work out well, especially if you're a Disney fan. You'll totally know what that means. And then, of course, like their birthday fun begin. I did print a lot of those or stamp a lot of those because I have a lot of birthdays and Disney friends. And I like it because it can be both male or female. So it's kind of perfect. Another birthday card with the moose. I know enough people that love to go to national parks, and it's always fun to see a moose in a national park. And then, of course, some doggy cards, which you can't not have enough of. And I did one with a sentiment and one without, because I don't know which one I want to do yet for the sentiment, but that's all right. Anyways, I hope that these really helped you learn how to kind of stamp more on watercolor paper. If you Okay, so bonus time, I wanted to share how I use these card panels to watercolor. So I am using, for this one, I'm using Gansey Tambi, the granulation colors, and they are beautiful. I was able to use orange for the green because it really was kind of green and brownish than orange. And then I'm using my regular Gansey Tambi watercolor for the moose and for the sky. And so I'm just going in there and I'm really just using a wash, a very simple wash with lots of little bits of color, but it really does work. And you'll see that it is just going to take some time to kind of build up those layers, especially if I'm using a wash. I do want to get some darker darks, but I don't really want to add too much because I want the stamp to really shine with the... Oh. You will also see me go in with a light blue for the sky, and that's just to give it some color. I actually plan on die cutting this panel out so that so that it just becomes a thing. But I had to get the background kind of ready to go so I knew what I was doing. But there's the blue sky, and then I'll go back in with that beautiful purple that's granulating. I just love it. And add some more to the background. Almost reminds me of mountains in the background, which is really pretty and indicative for the stamp. So anyways, really simple wash here, but it really is very effective, and I can actually stamp and paint a bunch of these panels in an afternoon and give them out to my friends and family. All right, next I'm using Brush Pro markers. Oh my gosh, if you don't have Brush Pro markers, you are missing out. I absolutely love them, and I actually use them like for watercolor, and I love them so much. I just kind of go in with a wet brush and put some ink down, and then I'll go with the actual marker, the same color, and I'll add a little bit more of that shading and that detail. And that's what you see me doing here for these birds. For the hats, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just using like a lighter violet, and then I'm going to go in and just kind of shade in. There's not a whole lot to it. I do plan on doing a Brush Pro marker tutorial soon, so you'll see all of that information coming out very soon. And it's just beautiful. Those markers really make for a fun card. And then for the background, I'm just going to go in with a brown, kind of, they're on the ground, in my opinion, or maybe on a branch, I don't know. But it's just fun, and I'm just going in and wetting down that paper so I get a little bit of gradient. And then I'm just going to add some of that blue color just to make it maybe seem like it's in the sky. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I just wanted some color down. And then just using my brush to kind of feather out that blue. And then I'll go in with the background as well and do the same thing. As I'm painting, I'm using a little bit of I'm actually, it's a lot compared to the ink, but I'm just wetting it down, and then I'm putting ink around, and you'll see where it's dry and where it's wet, because it's where it's wet, the water's already kind of moved on the paper. And I'm just doing that just to give it some atmospheric look and some texture to go along with it, as if it was in the sky. Unless, yeah, and so anyways, so much fun. All right, so my last tip is sometimes I need a micron pen just to add a little bit more detail, especially to like the eyes, like the ink worked, but once I put watercolor on, I just need to define the eyes a little bit, and that's all. I'm Lisa Christensen. I believe that everyone can watercolor. That is why I'm sharing my process with stamping. It's just a tool in my toolbox. And if you found this video to be at all helpful, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. I produce content every Thursday.